Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another Sunday. So last week, I heard back from some people. There were breakdowns and then breakthroughs. It was, intense a little bit, and I felt it was really important to learn to sort of let go, to kind of break sort of a cycle of disconnection and to focus on reconnecting, to make that dedication of reaching out and going against habitual patterns and cycles and habits. We don't take time for ourselves. We don't take time to stop and walk in nature or walk in one's garden or, roses. I love roses. Just taking care of one's roses and smelling their beauty is a wonderful practice. And almost anyone can do it. Roses are not very expensive. If you have a little balcony, an outdoor space, they're easy to do in a bucket. You get a big bucket. There's great pleasure in that. The Japanese put great emphasis in their gardens and how to use gardening as a form of meditation. And it's very beautiful. And it's a training tool as well as providing so much beauty after you've created it and you maintain it, because if you can focus on doing it and focusing on the beauty of it and being in that moment, your mind calms down. And when the mind calms down, to use modern terms, there's a lot more bandwidth available for one to start sensing and being in different ways of presence and reality that people often don't realize. Bandwidth goes down, you're available to all sorts of different frequencies of living and possibilities. So when we do our practice, we're stopping. When we bow in front of our shrine, when we allow beautiful sacred music or very inspiring music, which I try to play, and I hope people find ones of their own culture. When one lets go into this, you're going into some place, especially if people are new to this, that you're not used to going into. And if one's able to cultivate that and let go, to the objects, and what they represent in one's shrine. Like here I have a picture of a religious figure, sacred symbols, the names of God in Hebrew, because that's their original language, so there's great power how they're written. And just remember, it's read from right to left in Hebrew, or just the names in English, or whatever language is your primary language and you identify with. That really soaks into the mind, and definitely in the subconscious level as well. And one starts reorienting oneself. Slowly or quickly, and it's sort of like you're taking the wheel on your car. God, I love this analogy of the car. And you're just turning it just a little bit. It just takes a couple degrees, because in the course of time, you're kind of moving into a different lane, right? And a more optimal lane. I like to think we're moving it to the left, to higher lanes, faster lanes. It doesn't mean we have speed. It just means the facility of moving is much easier. You move to higher vibrations, but that doesn't mean we function faster. often we could function slower and be more present, but at the same time with that awareness, one cuts out a lot of the, pardon my French, bullshit, or a lot of the energy that's oncoming, and you could just cut through, Tibetan Buddhist term, to the essence of something, to one's awareness and practice and the increased knowledge, and you save time. The more you cut through, the more you're in presence, the concept of time sort of disappears, because you're in the present moment in which there's no time, there's no past, there's just present moments, the culmination of which creates the future. Yeah? So, it's a little more advanced. I like to sprinkle that in. There's a particular topic that I would like to focus on briefly, and then we'll start our practice. So, the principles of redemption, forgiveness, and transformation are at the core of Yahweh's teachings. They are essential for personal growth and spiritual evolution. So let me say that again. The principles of redemption, forgiveness, and transformation are at the core of Yahweh's teaching. It's the core of the Bible, both the Tanakh, Old Testament, and the New Testament. They are essential for personal growth and spiritual evolution. So when we work on our practice of prayer and taking time to tune in, to show devotion to God, to sort of lean into a more sacred spiritual space, one is applying the principles of redemption, forgiveness, and transformation, all in that practice. And implicit in everything I've spoken about from when I first started, I think in late February, they're essential for personal growth and spiritual evolution. I don't know any way you can do it. You just can't phone it in. And every single spiritual practice on this planet basically says that. It has to be a sense of dedication. So if you don't mind, I will address each one. This is really essential to understand what's happening. And then one can create what works for them to engender that transformation, to create that transformation. So, a definition of redemption. I often like going to the definition because it just kind of, as we grow older, we all have our idea what the word means. And sometimes there's a certain precision when one goes to the dictionary that one, doesn't have anymore. Redemption. I don't particularly like the word sin, but the action of, sometimes it is a sin, but I'm going to do this a little broader in a moment. Redemption, the action of saving or being saved from sin, error, or evil. This is from Oxford. That's legit. So, the action of saving or being saved from, I had the word and it slipped. The action of saving or being saved from being a little askew. Ultimately, the word sin, basically you're saying I'm askew. You're off. You're not in alignment, right? Of an alignment that causes something bad and not engendering positive actions, and we all know what they are. We call it sin. But what it is act of saving ourselves from going off the right path. So by stepping into one's prayer space and being open to what one discovers and the blessings, we are redeeming ourselves from sort of our habitual patterns and ultimately our disconnection. That's the word I was looking for. The action of saving or being saved from a disconnect of our true selves, of our alignment to what's eternal. We're repairing that break or that sort of lack of strength. A signal, our Wi-Fi signal to the eternal is 1 bar out of 5 and a little in and out, right? So ultimately the redemption is the returning to that alignment and repairing any errors of thoughts or actions as we return in that alignment. Forgiveness. So implicit when we do this and enter into such a space, we're kind of asking forgiveness to repair the break. So even if we don't ask forgiveness of a divine being or forgiveness of the universe, from the universe if one is just spiritual, more scientifically oriented, and the universe would be sort of all that is good and sacred and aligned, all the virtues of perfection. Right? If the universe weren't perfect, it would all sort of fall apart. It's all got to work, correct? Otherwise, planets will leave their orbit, the spaciousness of the universe might implode. It's all works, right? So the forgiveness is sort of repairing the breach, repairing the disconnect. So by doing that, we're sort of opening ourselves to the healing. And in a way, when the energy returns in alignment, returns into our sense of wholeness and health in ourselves, that in a way is a forgiveness. And that's sort of without bringing anything of a blessing from the outside. Now, there's penance. If one is religion, there's asking God for forgiveness. There's a wish to never do it again and to repair, if one can, one's previous actions. Good mitzvah, repairing the karmas, different ways of going about it. So that's a repair of the disconnect or the misalignment. And if one believes in religion, it's asking God, please forgive me. God, please help me not to do it again. Please, God, give me the strength to break patterns. I really have remorse, and I really strive to do better. So that's an act of a statement of penance, right? And when one goes through this alchemy, yes, one transforms oneself. One is a better, more whole, a better person. There's a transformation. So I haven't spoken too much about the different kinds of cars. Oh my God, I'm launching into a whole teaching. I think it's time to discuss different kinds of cars. So I will speak for myself. So I will give an example. So when I kind of started, I was pretty much not doing so well health-wise some 20 years ago, and come out of a very abusive a relationship that almost gave me a breakdown, made very sick, migraines and all sorts of... I was a mess. I felt I was driving a Pinto. I hate people laughing. It's a 1970s car that was probably one of the worst cars ever made. Things would fall off, bumpers, whatever. They had the brilliance of putting the gas tank in the back. And so when it would get rear-ended, the gas would sort of explode. I think they were banned from the road, actually. So it's sort of like you're in the car and you go to 60 miles per hour and everything's sort of shaking and you feel things are falling off, right? So it's hard to drive. I imagine the acceleration probably wasn't good, and the brakes might not even work at some point. It was a mess of a car. So as one practices and works on this, one heals. So the Pinto becomes, like a Honda, right? And eventually, it becomes a truck. That means all the bumps in the road sort of don't affect you anymore. And you realize you don't need the freeway. You can go on the back roads and handle dirt roads and bumps and go through streams. You've developed a resilience, a strength, that places you could never sort of handle, things you couldn't handle, you could become more adventurous because you have the capacity to sort of handle what comes. You're in a Ford truck. It's rugged. You could bump into things, you could have obstacles, and you power on. As one goes further, you become a Ferrari. You're streamlined, you're fast, and you just whiz by. There's no more dirt road, you're just whizzing through. It doesn't affect you. It's like dirt. It's the same as sort of highway, and you all realize it's sort of highway. So the dirt road really is a conceptual thing, because anyway, obstacles are very how one projects what it is, and then it becomes that. Eastern teachings. I'm not going to go into it too much. And so one's awareness becomes one's reality. So what's obstacles and things and bumps or whatever are really how one perceives a situation. And at some point, one just sort of cuts through like a hot knife on soft butter. Just no problem. So you're in a Ferrari, and you're just zooming along, beautiful Ferrari, You actually feel it. So it's not conceptual. At some point, you realize you're not in a Ferrari. You're in a jet. And you're just cruising along. And I don't know, I haven't been in a big jet, but I imagine there isn't much turbulence when you go that fast, and you're sort of high up. So I think you're really above all the stuff at lower elevations, and you're above the clouds, and it's very clear. It's very just a little touch of the kind of wheel, the steering wheel of a plane, the stick, I don't know what it's called. So really makes a big change, and the engines are just purring along, and it's really smooth. You're kind of above it, but you're aware, so you're not reactive anymore. You've attained sort of a higher space. You just perceive, and then you act. It's not a reaction, it's different. And then as one goes further, you realize you're not a jet, but you're some super fast starship just cutting through space. That's pretty far along. And you perceive things differently from a different perspective. You see life and the world differently. You are in a higher vibration, and if I use the highway analogy, you're on far left lanes. And I mean, these highways have 30 or 40 lanes heading to the left and to the right. I mean, we're not talking 4 lanes. And, anyway, the whole idea of a highway is completely conceptual. At that point, these things just really aren't. They don't even enter your thought. You're just present. And of course, you can come back down unless one has complete stability, which I don't have. So you can go back down to even the Pinto. And this is the part of it. There's certain parts of your life where you just got it and you're the Learjet, but that's also a level of awareness. So you feel like you're more in the Ferrari, okay? keep it grounded. So you're more of the Ferrari. In the other parts, you feel like it's a wreck and you're the Pinto and you're one rear end away from exploding, and your rear mirror just fell off and everything's shaking, and we all have those spots in our lives. And as we work on it, the transformation and creating that sort of redemption in our lives, we repair and we evolve. We reconnect with that source energy, that redemption, the forgiveness, the returning in alignment, returning in a different way of perceiving it. A lot of what happens, I'm sure there's all sorts of horrible things that come from the outside, and right, that's just another thing. But in these ways, those monks in Tibet had a whole different way of perceiving things, and that's really amazing. But the ability of what one perceives of what it is, in a way, creates an energetic tension, stress, depression. And it doesn't mean it's not real. It's very real. What's coming at you, what's engendering the depression or everything. But a lot of it is how one reacts energetically, and one's thoughts play a huge part in it. And it's not simply what's occurring, but also how one reacts and perceives it. So I'm working on that a lot. We all have parts where we work on, and parts where one transcends to the Learjet, and then a lot of turbulence happens for whatever reason, and one gets back down, and then one works on it again, one improves, and sometimes you kind of yo-yo back and forth, and that's part of the path. It's the path of transformation. It ain't linear, sadly. One goes to deeper and deeper levels by going up, and you're back down, and at some point you just get so sick of it, and you've seen the patterns, then one really begins to sort of transform and just really let it go. And one develops the skills. So what we are doing now is developing the skills. So last week was a lot about sacred music and letting go, crying to the beautiful music, praying for forgiveness, being prostrate completely in front of one's shrine, just saying, I need a new beginning. I let go of this. I'm carrying this pain of the past, of things that I've done, or regrets that I have, where I wasn't in alignment. And by saying that, one is recognizing what it is, and then one's leaving oneself open for redemption. The forgiveness of the realignment, which is completely transformative. One handles one's car in a better, more skillful place because we repaired the brakes, we've repaired the steering wheel that's off. We've repaired the fuzziness of our mind that we're not able to see a situation clearly. We've repaired the delay as one is living more in trauma or inability to be present, or depression, that one's reaction time is slower, or one is unable to react because one is just so stuck in the situation, because the situation it is what that is. It's their kryptonite, so to speak. And as one works, one is able to sort of release it. One's able to realize it and work on ways to sort of transcend, to work through it, to transcend it. And as one works and transcends, it goes from the Pinto to the off-road truck to the Ferrari, or top down, sunglasses, air to the wind, left elbow out of the car, and you're just one hand on the steering wheel, and beautiful music, and life is good. But those same situations could literally have been 5-10 years before, or a couple months before, been really hard, and you would have thought that you're left, rearview mirror was about to pop off and be all rusted and everything and paint peeling, because you were kind of in more of a Pinto space. And there's no judgment on it, because we've all been there. We've all have things that happen to us, and we all live in places where there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of habits, there's a lot of things that cause our body to hurt, to be unaligned, that our chakras and nadis and chi are all which way, that way, bunched up. And that causes our minds to have energetic imbalances, which in turn cause our body to have energetic imbalances. It's a vicious little circle. And because we have that, our thoughts are jumbled or not perfectly in alignment, which in turn reaffirms the whole cycle. So what we're kind of doing is working on spots of it to start working on aligning and breaking these cycles. Yoga is important. Exercise is essential. Watching the type of food we eat. If one drinks too much alcohol, that has effect on the mind, definitely on the body. Ain't healthy for the body. It doesn't mean a glass or two of wine or a shot or two is bad. No, ain't bad. A bottle is. Because you have to have a clear mind. The body needs to release the toxins it has. And if you feel healthier in your body, healthy mind, healthy body, healthy spirit, and then it's easier to do these practices. So we're bringing in so many different elements. Look, I did acupuncture. Oh my God, I'm the biggest fan of acupuncture. But you really need to find a really good person. I call it nuclear medicine for a reason. Those little needles need to be placed properly by somebody who knows what they're doing, because it's literally realigning the energy currents of your body. It's moving energy from spots it shouldn't be and helping it flow. It also could repair muscles and headaches. I've had pins in my head, my feet, every which part. And it's so helpful. Find somebody who's trained in the Eastern Chinese. It's where it was invented. I would, somebody who really knows the Chinese method and who has many years of practice. Find somebody who has many years of practice. I know helping the people who are starting is all wonderful and nice, but this is really important things, and it's helpful. And massages, deep tissue massages, I love. Gets into the muscles. That helps the flow, that tension in the muscles, the tension in the body, and my body can hold a lot of tension. Interestingly, I'm pretty thin, and sometimes those people who are the thinnest hold the most tension. And it works into the tendons. I'm a big fan of Tui Na massage, TUI-NA. If you live in New York City, there's a wonderful place, sort of in East 20th Street. And they work with the meridians of the body, the energy channels. They're Chinese-based. Those women could break your back. They do it really strong. I say it, please go light, and their light is really kind of intense. And if you breathe through it, and of course if you tell them it's too much, they'll go slower. But they really know the pressure points in the body and how to release. They're really, so these are spiritual technologies, these are physical technologies that understand how our body is composed. So by doing that also comes the mind. So as we're going through these 9 weeks, please try to enter sort of these things where you think it's helpful. I used to have massage oils. India is very good for this. They'll massage oil depending on your body type. Yes, it's real. And it helps relieve the tension. Like, I need massage oils that give me energy, that give a sense of the deeply nourishing. There's people of other body types, if they do that, they've got too much fire. They would burn up. They would get really sick. So there's oils that are more depleting, that help energy leave, but they're depleting because they've got too much. Right? And there's people in the middle that are just in the perfect little zone, and they just need something to maintain them. So they sort of have it in between. They use different flowers if they're very advanced, and different roots, and all that is also into balance. There's teas. I really haven't gotten too much into teas myself, but you know what? I do drink teas. Green tea is very healthy. I love lotus teas, lotus flower teas. They're so healing. You can get some of them at CVS. They have them there. They have them everywhere. These are things to sort of investigate, and it's what makes the spiritual journey just so beautiful, because one starts going and doing things that one would thought was a little crazy. Acupuncture, I'm like, what the world's that before? Deep tissue, never really tried it, maybe one or two. Doing oils on the body, I thought that was, checked out. It ain't. It's really checked in. So these are things to investigate, and it really makes for a very beautiful, magical life, because you're doing all these things, and then you start seeing the benefits, and you're like, wow, there's so much wonder in this world of all these things that I haven't really experienced. And wow, look at these benefits. Just, really do your research. Really go online and check out their website and use your intuition whether it works. If it feels really off and it just looks, it is just, it's off. Right? That doesn't mean it's working and you're feeling discomfort. That's just part of the process. But if you sense this is really off, they're not what they pretend to be, and this is ain't, feel free to get up and leave. Don't allow damage to occur on your body. And as for massage, look, I'm a man. I like deep tissue. I like to feel it. For women, maybe less so, but don't do a little light thingy. That ain't gonna work. You have to work through the muscles. So they might do it lighter, but those thumbs got to go in kind of deep. You've got to work out the knots. The energy's going to flow. I don't think a Ferrari takes exactly the same, gas as a Pinto or a truck. A Ferrari, you need a little more high octane. And then there's jet fuel, right? So as you do this, you start eating differently. You start everything differently, and you have all these things. Since I'm talking about things to help the body, Epsom salts, Dead Sea salts, and baths, hot baths with the salts in them will relieve so much stress in the body. It relaxes the muscles. You can get Epsom salts on massive bags on Amazon for not too much money. You can find it in CVS. There's bougie ones with lavender. It makes them more expensive. But it's so important. You go in there and all the tension just drains away. It's wonderful. Now, if you have more energy and you're a different body type, you could take them more often. If you have a, more fragile body type, too much could be really way too depleting. And then, that's not healthy as well. And a more advanced practice, as you get used to it and you work on it, don't do this right away, please. You stay in, all right, here we're going. So, you stay in the bath as you drain it. Yeah, I'm sensing somebody screaming. Yeah, they're more traumatic. It's a friend of mine. So and you imagine all the stress and everything that doesn't serve you draining down the drain. And as the water goes down and down, you do feel it, and you kind of imagine sludge or dirt or whatever, or heaviness going into the water as it goes down. And if you do the name of God, like Yahweh Rapha, Yahweh heal me, Emmanuel Wafa, El Shaddai Wafa. Oof, anything El Shaddai is really powerful. It's Hashem Wafa, right? And you just do that as the water is draining out. And soon, it's just you in the tub. That visualization of that and praying really gets a lot out. And that's really the intersection of religious training or working with a mantra, which the names of God are mantras, really intersect with one's intent. Very important for manifestation of what one wants, and the physical reality that you've been soaking in a hot bath with Epsom salt, which does remove it from your body, and the water in the Epsom salt draining away down a drain really removes it while you're there praying for everything to go down. And the drain is literally a suction that suctions it out, because it's the pressure of the water in the drain is actually sort of a pipe or a wormhole, that kind of brings it out of the body. And it has a certain suction power. It has a certain force of gravity that pulls things away. And even if one doesn't think it's that great, let me tell you, from an energetic point of view, it's quite strong, the drain of a bathtub, whether one realizes it or not. And then afterwards you feel so much better. A little next level, if one feels particularly dirty or energetically dirty or heavy, don't rinse off the Epsom salt. You could walk with it and let it dry on you for about 20 minutes. The salt itself cleans your energetic fields around your body. And there's a correlation between the energetic fields outside of your body mirrors the displacements you have inside. Yes, this is real. Just trust me. And by having the salt, the salt itself is around the body, which cleans outside. And when you rinse it off after 20 minutes, first thing you're not drying out your skin, which is never good, but also you'll feel the salt has absorbed some of it and kind of leached it out of the body. And you rinse it off, you're even more cleansed. And then if you go into prayer afterwards, you go in kind of by your shrine and listen to the music, you'll feel lighter. You've kind of taken your car into the shop or into the car wash, and you've kind of let go of the junk, the gunk that you've been carrying in your mind, in your body, illnesses, misalignment, everything. If one has allergies, all that's got to help, right? Or even asthma, it helps. It relieves that inflammation and tension in the body. Wow, this has been a comprehensive talk, which I didn't quite realize I would go into. So we are going to hop. And if people, we're going to hop into the prayers. If you people could please, so when I say these things, please, consider them for this 9-week period. This is an intensive period. The prayer at night, if you get up early, if there's a full moon or a new moon, experience what that feels. Take a walk, if it's safe for you to walk outside, where there's no lights, or in your backyard, and see what it feels being under the stars. Even if it's winter, bundle up, right? I used to go out in New York. I had the grace and bounty of being able to have a private deck on the top floor of a building. God bless me. I've always wanted something like that, and it manifested. I'm so happy. And by going out there at night, there's a stillness of it, the stillness of the snow. Feel that a little bit. That's healing. This is a period of investigation and going deeper and taking into account that the energy of winter, if you're in the northern hemisphere, right, and if you're in the southern, consider this for next summer, and but do it now, and you can do this during the summer. maybe next week we'll talk a little bit about some summer things just for you guys in the Southern Hemisphere. So, so you explore, you learn. You're not in the Northern Hemisphere. You're not running to the beach. You're not going on vacation in the mountains. You're not scuba diving. You're at home, especially on the East Coast or the Midwest. It's freezing now. You're not going out and about. You don't want to go do things. You're at home. It's a time of introspection. In many spiritual, if not all the spiritual traditions, their practices align up with the time of the year. They use the seasons and the power of the seasons to engender change. And winter is a period of time of inner retreat, learning, reading books, listening to teachings like mine, to learn and go deep. And then when spring comes, just like trees, new leaves and flowers sprout, and you take what you've created, that energy that's harnessed during the winter, like all the rain and the snow, the trees are just soaking it in, and then it's ready to burst through. And we flower. Ultimately, our lives and our bodies are a tree. And it's very important. It's a little bit of a Kabbalah teaching, could dabble that in, because it's real. So right now we're working on our leaves, we're pruning what needs to be pruned, we're nurturing what needs to be nurturing, we're putting up wire or sticks or something, propping up what needs to be healed. We're making sure there's some good fertilizer around, or we have it prepared for the spring so everything grows optimally. We're removing our weeds. So we light our shrine. Sometimes at the beginning, I haven't really discussed too much of eyes open or eyes closed, but at the beginning, it's important to feel and relax. So at the beginning, sometimes you keep your eyes closed, because that helps one to align and to relax. And as one aligns, it's helpful to have one's fingertips together, connecting the left side and the right side of the body. And it's okay to be seated down. So as I'm broadcasting, I have my laptop in front of me, so I'm actually at a table. So I say that because there's many different ways you can do it to be comfortable. If there's older people, it's all good. Whatever you need to do to be comfortable. And sometimes it's tough to start. The week came in and you are where you are. It's Sunday morning. Maybe you had to work all of Saturday, and you might have to work today, and you've taken some time off for this. And it's hard to have the right posture and even the right frame of mind. I have discovered when that happens, and it happens a lot sometimes, you take whatever posture you start with, where it's comfortable, even if the back isn't straight and one is stooped down, and the head is just kind of slooped down, and the shoulders are slooped, and it just, if that's where you find yourself, then you know what? Start there. I have found when I try to do it and immediately in a perfect way, it took much longer for me to find that alignment and to relax. So if one starts where one feels to be, as you say the names of God and you try to find presence, you will find that quickly you straighten up. And it's not necessarily that you intend to, but it just happens. Because when you bring that energy in of your awareness, there's your shrine for the blessings, your altar, you're saying the names of God, or even if you're working just to meditate, and you relax, you realize that posture is just a representation of what you've been holding and what's happened in your week and how you feel and how everything that's happened has caused you to feel. And no, it's not all in your mind. It's real. It's real. The pain's real. The discomfort's real. The misalignment's real. You look in the mirror, it's real. Correct? So don't say it's just a thought and it ain't real. At a much more advanced level, that's true. But don't do these little pithy little cutie things when you are not there for that. And sometimes you could really be there, but there's a particular thing that's just, you're not there. And you've got to realize when you're there and when you're not there and be honest with that. Because one instruction for one situation could be medicine. That same instruction for another situation could be complete poison. This isn't 1970s cute stuff, because it's much, much, much more complex. That's why you have to have proper instructions, because there's a lot of depth and understanding that's required to navigate your car properly. There is an instruction manual. So if your posture ain't there, that's fine. Just relax and just breathe in. Look at your beautiful candle and just look at it in your space so quiet. Smell the incense. Just breathe. Feel called to, you could light another stick of incense if yours has gone down and the room isn't like suffocated of incense and it's too strong. And so you could say the names of God when you feel to, out loud or inside. And then hopefully you'll see yourself sort of straighten organically. Sometimes, I take more traditional meditation postures, but sometimes, you just kind of head falls to the ground. You're just like, oh my God. And, arms kind of flop up, sort of palms up, and you just kind of surrender. And that's very important. If you do that, you'll see the release of that energy of just like, oh my God, what a week. And you just kind of collapse there. Sometimes I've literally lied down in front of my altar in almost quasi-fetal position, just exhausted and drained. And that's where you are. But look where you took yourself, to your part of your home, which should engender healing and unconditional holding and support with no judgment. There's no judgments here. You come as you are. And it's perfect as you are. Without having that judgment. Judgment holds things. Being okay with it. Just think, I'm okay. there's an openness to that. It's not that energetic, internal thing that holds a thought or holds a thing. And then you just breathe. And it could be in your bed. Once you learn how to do that, you can take it outside in your life, outside of your space, another part of the room or the couch, and you just learn to breathe and to release and to let go. And with that, the battery drains. Sometimes if you're in the upright position, put your hands sort of in your thigh area, the sort of legs, the top of the legs, not necessarily, it could be towards the thigh, the top of the legs between, your pelvis and your knees. And you could have palms up there. Sometimes I find that helpful, especially when I was beginning of a practice. The palms could be up, sort of in the middle of your leg, or they could be up angled towards your private areas, the fingers, and then where your hands are kind of a little further back, in that sort of area where the legs connects. There's also pressure points, but you kind of have to be in the full lotus for those. So that takes a lot of practice. We're not even going into there. But just try to find just where the energy flows. It's what works. And as one gets into your alignment, open your eyes. Meditation optimally is done with the eyes open, not closed. So ultimately, your shrine should be slightly where you look kind of down, 45 degrees. As one relaxes and heals, I found in my practice, my neck goes up and it's at the horizon. But it sort of happens naturally. You just kind of see it, and sometimes it happens right at once, within seconds, or it takes minutes, or 30 minutes, or 40 minutes, or an hour, or it doesn't at all, and that's fine. There's different levels here, and where you are now doesn't necessarily where you'll be a year from now, and you might remember what I said here, and you go digging for it, and hopefully in the descriptions there's enough detail that you'll find which one it was, and you'll listen to it. And I'll be repeating this anyway. So, where does it feel? Eyes are open because during the day, your eyes are open when you're in the world. So we're learning to balance this and balance our minds. Because ultimately, we take it as to what's called off the cushion. That means when you're away from your shrine and going about your daily life. So if you're able to find stability in a calm space, with the eyes open, you are more inclined to be able to have that state when you go about your life. You find that stability with practice. When someone's yelling at you, you realize it's about them. And the energy with practice literally goes through your body and hits the wall behind you. It just feels like there's nothing receptive because you're not receptive to it. And in fact, with progress and practice, you actually feel compassion because you start seeing where the person is actually in great pain themselves. You see their motivations and why they do it, and you're just like, wow, it's just, it's a lot of anger. Or you see the pain. Or you realize that's just toxic. And you're like, how do I better navigate the situation? How do I diffuse it? Or how do I minimize my engagement with it? Or you realize this is too much for me to handle. I'm not that advanced yet. And then you realize, okay, given that, what do I do? And that's a level of awareness that one begins to work with a situation. If you're learning to swim, the deep end of the pool is not a good place to be. If you're learning to swim in the pool and you're somewhat proficient, that doesn't mean you could swim in the ocean with the waves and deal with something kind of bumping into you as you're swimming. And that's happened to me. A little scary. And so it's with time. And here we develop the skills. So let's go deep together, yes? So we should have had enough relaxation, deep breathing. I ask people to open their eyes. This is why one creates a beautiful space that we find attractive. And we learn to look at it. And it should speak to our hearts. And we're like, feels like home. It speaks to me. And if it don't fully speak to you, then I invite you to work on your altar, to make it speak to you. Work on the colors. Color therapy is important. On the smell of your incense. If you have incense, it's best to have a neutral, non-scented candle. And if you don't do incense, maybe there's a scent of a candle that works for you. So we're working with our sense of sight, our smell. So we say the name of God that calls to you, and I will work on it myself quietly so I don't disturb you with the name of God you do. And it can change from day to day. Today for me it's Abba. And say loud or quiet, be in the stillness, but try to keep your eyes open. And remember, relax. Okay, we're going to do this together. 15 minutes, okay? You can do it. So if your mind gets a little scattered, you say the name. If you feel pain or you really need to lie down to release the energy, then give yourself permission to lie down. Your head should be slightly up. Not too much. You want the energy to flow through the top of your head, so be mindful that you're not causing a kink in your neck, which could cause problems for the throat chakra, particularly people who have throat chakra issues, which I think is probably most people in today's society. Won't get into the throat chakra, but make sure it lines up. Okay, all these things are real that I'm talking about. All right? But when you lie down, try to stay present. But sometimes if you fall asleep, that's okay, because you're in your place and it's safe. And that sleep sometimes really necessary. A lot of things could have happened during the sleep. And so that's fine. Now, if you do it all the time and you're sleeping for 2 months straight, each time you try, I would try what we call a little more discipline, a little more rigidness to one's practice. Discipline's not a judgmental term. It just means a little more focus, a little more intention, a little more discipline. That's why the word is used. A little tighter grip, yes, to create the patterns, the positive patterns, more traditional patterns, so you are able to to grow. All right. 15 minutes starting now. Your hands could also be together in prayer. This could also be a prayer. Okay, so you can start coming back if you wish, or you can continue, and then you can end and sort of extinguish the candle and everything in a way that you see fit. With practice, this is able to go deeper and deeper and become easier and increasingly meaningful. I have a song. If you would like to play it, the link is in the description of this YouTube, and you can click on that. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to speaking with you all soon. Bye-bye.